Hi everyone, it's Megan. We're back in the library today, and today I'm going to do a video that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's one I've seen a lot of people do, but it's where you basically read one-star reviews on Goodreads of books that you would give 5 stars to. And I know people always say they kind of say the same things the whole time. You're just like, wait, what? That's not true. So I'm gonna see if I do that or if I have actual specific reactions to these. I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna do some of my old favorites, and then I'm gonna do some of the new books I've read this year as well. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book I'm going to do, because I just think it'd be fun, is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. Maybe not my favorite in the Vampire Chronicles, but I still want to do this one because it's the first one in the series. It has over 500,000 ratings on Goodreads, and only 2% of them are 1 star, but that is still 10,517 1-star reviews. So let's just read a few of the top ones, or like the most recent ones, and see what they say. This is sorted by the top reviews, so some of these are kind of old. The first one says, I thought it was slow. I mean, it is difficult to read. Okay, well, maybe you should try a little harder. I finished it only by sheer determination, not out of pleasure. Well, then you should probably DNF it. It's hard to admit that a movie with Tom Cruise in it could actually be less boring than a book. Okay, so this person doesn't like Tom Cruise either. Well, okay, that's their problem right there. This is, I rated it 1 star for personal reasons. Okay, well, way more boring than Twilight. Fight me. What? Who is this person? They didn't like classics in school. Somebody DNF'd it at 105 pages, which is a bit less than a third of the way. They said, nope, 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 nope. Just a thought, and maybe, just maybe, don't do the thing where you call a child mature for her age just to justify pedophilia. What? Mature for her age? She's a vampire. She's like 100 years old. Oh my gosh. Okay, she's not really 100 years old, but she gets older, obviously, but like she's in the body of a 5-year-old. Okay. Cannot continue. I'm bored to death. I feel it was a bad choice to have long paragraphs of just repetitive musings on how vampires perceive the world. But that's what made this book so cool. That's one reason it's so popular, is that it did things like that, like where the vampires would muse on like the meaning of life and, you know, good versus evil. I mean, what do you want them to just muse on their teenage crush or something like in Twilight? Like, what do you want them to muse on? What do you think vampires would actually think about in their lives, you know? Oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna be mad at these people already. Here's a funny review. It says that the person actually liked the movie version, but they said the book didn't cut it for me though. I think the biggest reason was I really disliked all the main characters. Oh my gosh, how do you dislike Louis and Lestat? That's crazy to me. Vampires shouldn't whine so much. The writing style didn't capture me either. Oh my gosh, okay, well then this is clearly not for you. So this person says being popular and remaining in print for a long time does not guarantee a good book. I stopped at page 75. That was the best I could do. The writing was super repetitive. There were a lot of awkward descriptions and interactions between the 2 main male characters. It was not entertaining at all. Then I checked out the movie. Although Pitt and Cruise were super hot, I still think the movie was not good. So most people are just saying it's boring and repetitive. So, I mean, it's just not for you, I guess. I guess you really like super fast-paced stories, which of course this one is not. It is very character-driven, and these people clearly want more of a plot-driven story. So I don't know what to tell them. They just shouldn't read Anne Rice. So let's move on to our next book. I want to do a more modern book that is one that I just discovered this year. I thought I would do my favorite book of the year that I've read so far, which is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Now, we all know that I did not enjoy the sequels to A Darker Shade of Magic, but I loved the first book so much. Still highly recommend, but please stop there. Don't read the rest of them. So I pulled up the reviews here for A Darker Shade of Magic. There are 3,900 1-star reviews out of 254,000 total. So the very first one says, Kell is a magician, but a special kind of old who has the ability through blood magic to cross the dimensions into the different worlds. Okay, so, they're just gonna go on a description for a very long time, but okay, their main gripe, it says, would be the world building or total lack thereof. I agree that the world building was not strong, but I thought that that's what the sequels were going to do, and that this one was really more just focused on the plot and kind of getting you kind of more intrigued about the world, like you wanted to know about the 4 different versions of London. So I kind of agree with that person. So the next person says that they like Victoria Schwab. She has talent, there's no doubt about it, but for me, the writing is dull. But she says the main complaint, and I love the writing, by the way, I thought it was really good. It says, that being said, I think Lila is the sole reason I couldn't do this book. I just want to violently swear about her for this entire review. but she thinks that she saw similarities between this book and or did not see the similarities between this book and Mistborn, but I seem to hate Lila about the same amount as I hate Vin, which I also did not like Mistborn, so maybe I can kind of sympathize with this person. So I kind of see, yeah, I mean, Kel, yes, like this person says, I was interested in Kel, so I mean, I could see that. Holland was fascinating. Yeah, I mean, Holland was cool too. Even Rye was cool. Yeah, so okay, I kind of agree with them. Lila wasn't like the best character in the world, but you know, she was what she was. So she gets better, I feel like, as the story goes on. So okay, so far these I'm actually kind of agreeing with a little bit. This person DNF'd it at 40%. They said, I can't do this anymore, I'm out. Where do I even begin? I was rolling my eyes at every page, or toward the end I just started skimming. I personally did not care for the writing. The short chapters / parts were very nice, but the writing was mediocre at best. No, I don't know, I thought it was really good. Lila was unbearably awful. I couldn't stand her. Okay, yeah, so all right. Okay, I do agree with this person. They said everyone's motivations make no sense, and the evil twin people were just evil to be evil. Okay, yeah, was it Astrid and, oh my gosh, I forgot the guy's name. Athos, yeah. The two evil twins that literally have the name start with the letter A. Like, okay, yeah, they were evil just to be evil. That's true. They really didn't have much motivation. So, and they were pretty blah characters for villains. Okay, now this is starting to make me think. Maybe I should have rated this book like 4 stars, because I'm kind of agreeing with the people on some of these things. They said DNF too slow. Too slow. This book is like super short and crazy fast paced. So much happens in like 300 pages. I don't understand that one. Now, books 2 and 3, sure, maybe that's what they're talking about. They wanted so badly to like this book because they liked Vicious, so maybe their expectations were just a little too high. And see, I'm the opposite. I think my expectations were really low because I had not been a fan of so many other books, fantasy books that were being recommended on BookTube. And so when I came across this one, I decided to, just go in with no hope, and I loved it. Okay, let's go back into another old favorite now. Let's do the Dresden Files. I think this one could be fun because I know a lot of booktubers just don't really care about them, and they usually stop after they've read a few books. I have read all of them, and they are, of course, one of my favorites of all time. My husband is reading them now, or listening to them. And so on Goodreads, there's 322,000 reviews total. And out of those, only 6,800 are 1 star. So I feel like that's a better number than what we've seen for the other books, so that's good. So yeah, the first book is not great, I will admit. I mean, like book, 14 is my favorite, Cold Days, and then probably book 5 after that. So yeah, I agree, book 1's not the best, but I think this would be a fun one to try to do. So, all right, our first one, let's see. This person has a problem with the main character. They said the main character kind of lives this uber geek's idolized life. He lives in a basement and sub-basement. He always wears a black duster and cowboy boots, even when he's wearing t-shirts or sweats and t-shirt. He has a normally large alley cat that likes to drink Coke and doesn't get violently ill from caffeine. He can't get anywhere with women for no reason at all. Okay, well, now that's kind of true, I suppose. He's a walking dorky cliche that reminds me of some kind of Peter Parker wizard, constantly bemoaning the weight of the world on his shoulders, even when it's actually not on his shoulders. I mean, no, I don't think so, especially in just the first book. And sometimes he does have okay, well, if they kept reading the series, they might see that he truly has the weight of parts of the world on his shoulders. He saves lots of people, especially the newest book. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that person needs to keep reading, I suppose. And they also said it wasn't fun to read and it's poorly constructed. This was also written by Jim Butcher when he was really young. I think it was for like a graduate school project or something. So, just give him some time. Okay, the next one says this book was terrible. Oh wow, this is a long review. But let's see, it says there was not a single aspect that I felt was done well. It tried to be a fantasy/detective story, which I find to be an intriguing concept, but it failed at being both. It certainly wasn't a great fantasy story. The whole appeal of this type of fantasy is seeing how magic is performed, and more importantly, how it interacts with our world. But while the rules of Jim Butcher's magic system were somewhat well explained when they were actually brought up, I never felt like the system as a whole was clearly defined. Well, would you want it to be... Okay, well, what do you want? Do you just want like info dumps and just saying like, here's how the magic works? That's what Brandon Sanderson does. And of course we know I don't like him. So I think that is actually what made me want to continue reading this series, is that I knew that as the world, was being built, I would learn more about the magic system as the books went on. And that's exactly what happens. That's what Harry Potter does, for crying out loud. You didn't know everything about, I don't know, port keys in book 1, right? So you learned as you went. Let's keep going. Next one says, this book is awful. Rumor is that by book 4, the series actually finds its footing and gets good. I could see that. Book 4 is what really cemented it for me. They're not going to read more than 2 books in the series, though, to get there. Harry's an awful character, not like an interesting anti-hero way. Well, I think he's a good anti-hero, and if you keep reading, he truly becomes one. I really hate Harry Dresden. Okay, so people have more of a problem with the main character, it seems like, than anybody else. He's self-absorbed. My life is pain, but I'm too stoic to admit it. And so gritty. Ugh. Also, his friend the Skull is not witty by any stretch of imagination. I love Bob. He's awesome. I mean, he's a skull that reads fantasy, or that reads romance novels. And the plot is not even vaguely imaginative. It feels like a paint-by-numbers urban fantasy book. Yeah, maybe the first one, but then it really does get better. So this person listened to it on CD, so they already are out because I don't like Jim Marsters reading it. I know, contrary to popular opinion. This person added it to a list of their shelf is called I'd Rather Punch Myself in the Face. Okay, and let's do one more. This person I'm intrigued because it said they rarely give a 1-star rating to anything. So let's see why they did. They said they don't enjoy doing it, having to be critical of an author's work, and they have to admit this wasted their time. They just don't see the appeal, so maybe it's just not a good match for them. That's actually what it says. It would have been a good match for me with the criminal mystery, but it failed to deliver anything, especially not an engaging main character. They just don't like Harry Dresden. I guess I really like Harry. I think he's funny. I mean, oh my gosh, like I am so entertained by Harry's inner monologue when I read these books, but I guess some people are not. So it's funny, it actually says, and as for the humor in the story, it appears to have gone missing along with the logic of the magical system the author created. I'm sorry, but an author can't just write what he wants to suit himself in the story without him following a certain sort of logic and realism, even with the fantasy, or in the fantasy genre, where perhaps it's needed even more so to make the fantastical believable. And that kind of logic just isn't present in the story. I don't think that that's the case. It's fantasy, so yeah, you can do whatever you want. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, moving on to the last book. Okay, so for the last book, I thought I would do like my favorite like young adult book of the year, which it's kind of hard to say because I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but I would probably say that Raybearer was my favorite, and it was a great fantasy novel. Definitely my favorite young adult fantasy novel I think I've ever read. So I'm gonna do Raybearer and see, because I don't know how people could give 1-star reviews to this book. It was so good. So there are only 13,000 reviews, so way fewer than the other ones. And then out of those, only 36 are 1 star. I'd be intrigued at the percentage of that, but okay. So the first person says, did not finish, stopped at 29%. They got an advanced reader copy of the audiobook, so maybe that's their problem. Why couldn't they? They couldn't get into it at all. Okay, the next person says, I really wanted to love this book. I mean, with the synopsis and how everyone raved about it and the cover was gripping, but it was not. I listened to the audiobook, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, maybe that's their problem. Let's see if somebody didn't listen to the audiobook. Unfortunately, this book is not good. I tried my best with it, but the story and world building are muddled. The pacing is off, and I could not engage with the characters. After struggling to reach 113, I noped out. Moving on. Okay, I could see this one. I like how sometimes I can like argue with these people, but then sometimes I see their point. So the world building and story, I could see that. They are so intertwined, and the world building starts off right away, like page 1, and you're like, what? And it's really intense world building, more so even than focusing on the characters. So I could kind of give them that. The pacing is a little weird because there are large jumps in time. This book takes us place over the span of many, many years and follows the main character through a life. So I could sort of see that. Let's see. The next person says DNF 100 pages in, definitely a YA book for the younger side of the demographic. I don't think so, because I feel like the younger kids wouldn't be able to kind of take in all the world building. So I don't know if I agree with that one. So it turns out there's only 2 pages of negative reviews on Goodreads, or 1-star reviews on Goodreads. So there's really not even hardly anything else to read. Most people are just like, oh, 1 star, DNF, not for me. Didn't really say, most of these people don't really say why, just didn't capture my interest. I mean, that's really it. So what does this person say? Yeah, some people are like, yeah, it's just, it was, the premise was fabulous, but it's just probably just me. They said that it's rare. They're probably the rare exception. So, I mean, I guess I could see it. This person says the novel was disturbing. It was screaming creepy cult, and it's not something I want to continue. What? There's no creepy cult, I can assure you of that. I mean, okay, I guess because the main characters like the main girl goes to this council where they're all like linked together, and then they can even like communicate with each other once they've like bonded. I don't know. And they're all there to protect the emperor. So, okay, maybe it is kind of, I don't know about creepy though, but I could see the cultish vibes, I suppose. So anyway, people are mostly, maybe they should just not try reading the audiobook. And most people are like, yeah, I agree. I probably should have liked this book, because most people did. In fact, it has a 4.42 rating on Goodreads, which I feel like is really good. And of the 13,000 reviews, 7,100 are 5-star, 4,400 4-star, then just 1,100 3-star, 200 2-stars, and then only 36 1-stars. So you can see most people actually did like that book. So, all right, well, this has been an interesting experience. So now I kind of see where I fall doing one of these types of videos. Sometimes I get really angry and I'm like, what, are you crazy? Did we read the same book? And then sometimes I'm like, okay, I kind of see where you're coming from. And I feel like most of the time it's just a matter of personal taste, and that sometimes these books are just not for some types of readers. So, hey, whatever suits your fancy. But I mean, you should totally still read Interview with the Vampire and love it. So, all right, I will see you guys again in another video soon. Bye.